Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Fear the Beard from Fear the Beard Football Channel. I know it's been about probably 4 to 5 months since I even posted on YouTube or uploaded a video. For a long time, I just got into podcasting and started to try to grow it from there. But just honestly, a lot of life happened. A lot of big changes in my life have happened within the last few months. So I wanted to take a step back. That with the podcasting. But during that time, I really got to thinking about where I wanted this channel to go and what I really wanted to do with it and exactly what I wanted to do, fitting things into my life, because my life is actually pretty hectic, pretty busy from time to time. I needed to take a step back, basically, and just kind of like reevaluate things, just because I just needed that. But I'm coming at you guys today with another video, and I'm going to get back on the grind of pumping out videos for you guys. I really want to start into my predictions and stuff like that before the season starts, and then just kind of go from there and talk about random shorts and do little short videos and everything, because I don't really want to run them too long. I know me, at least with the whole podcasting thing, like I can talk for an hour, but who really wants to listen to somebody talk for a whole hour, unless it's something that's extremely interesting to them. And there's just not people that are that interested in sports enough, or at least have the time to necessarily listen to something for a full hour. So I'm just going to put together short videos for you guys from now on. I think that's kind of where I'm going to keep this at. But I was just sitting here because, I'd come into work a little bit later, or came into work a little bit early today, and usually I get in around 12 o'clock, but today was just not one of those days where I could get in early because my boss is, off doing something out of town, and, I ended up coming in today, all that good stuff. But where I'm really getting at with what I'm going to talk to you about today is I was scrolling on Facebook, and I've been seeing this a lot. I'm a Panthers fan. We all know that I'm a Panthers fan. I've said that multiple times, and I remember making a video about how we got Sam Darnold, and I was really excited about that because, I like Teddy Bridgewater, and I felt like a lot of fans realistically didn't give Teddy Bridgewater enough credit because, I feel like a lot of people got their expectations up too high, or at least tried to put him on this pedestal, or compared him to people that he's not, or that he's never going to beat. If you had managed your expectations with him, you would have been very happy. But COVID off season last year, not enough time to learn the playbook. Christian McCaffrey goes down. There's a slew of injuries, a young defense that did get better towards the end of the year. I felt like Teddy Bridgewater did as good as he could have done with the situation that was presented to him. But we ended up moving on from him. We went and got Sam Darnold and then shipped him off to Denver, which, I was okay with that. As much as I like Teddy Bridgewater and as much as I want him to succeed, if it didn't work out in Carolina, that's fine. But, I just see this continuous cycle with Panthers fans, and it really gets under my skin. It's one of the things that, I love my team. I would never switch to a different team or anything like that because, I just don't believe in that. But it's just one of the things that truly infuriates me about this fan base is that we are such fair weather fans. We're literally, to me, like one of the worst, if not the worst fan base in NFL. Straight up. First of all, living in Carolina, you see so many people who are just fans of other teams. And I get that a lot of that is because we've only been around for 26 years. They came in 95. I was born in 95. I'm 26. So, 26 years. But, in that time, we've gone from Steve Berline, Kerry Collins, Jake Delhomme, Cam Newton came along, then we had Teddy Bridgewater, all that. There's your couple of guys in between, like Clausen. It's just, those, weird years. But for the most part, those are the guys that you realistically remember as Panthers quarterbacks. And, now granted, I was not the biggest supporter of Cam Newton when he was our quarterback. Now, rookie year, felt like he was phenomenal. I never felt like he took the step from year 2 to year 3. And then year 4, if I'm not mistaken, year 4 was the Super Bowl year. And I was very ecstatic for how well he played during that year. But I was always under the impression of, I need to see you do it again. before I'm really a believer, and he never made that step forward. Now, 2017, he played pretty well. We made the playoffs, and then in 2018, he was playing the best that he had ever played up until that Thursday night game where T.J. Watt, had that helmet-to-helmet. They gave him, he hit him in the shoulder, and that just kind of screwed up and derailed his whole season, and he hasn't been the same since. Where I get at with that is, even though I wasn't the biggest Cam Newton fan, I still supported him as our quarterback. I still wanted him to do good. I was just realistic, and I managed my expectations. Everyone would come in and be like, oh, he's super Cam, he's going to do X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, he's a roller coaster. He's up and down. But he does have his moments. He's one of those guys that can walk in and change the game at any point. He can play phenomenal. And then there's times where you're like, what the fuck, dude? But where I get at with this is, I saw so many fans that just went one way with him. They hated him. They never wanted him to succeed. I would see people just, be like, oh, I wish that he would just, get injured this week and we could trot in X, Y, and Z, who the fuck ever. And, you would see a lot of that. You'd see a lot of people where he would play like shit and lose the game for us, and they'd be like, oh, it wasn't Cam's fault. It was, make all these excuses for him. Those are what I'm talking about. Then Teddy Bridgewater. Like 90% of the fan base didn't like Teddy Bridgewater. It was like, constantly compared him to Cam. I remember seeing that throughout the whole entire season. And, and now we're seeing with Sam Darnold and stuff like that, where like this man hasn't even played a regular season game with us. And people are going to sit here, and I read these things all the time where people say, if... well, what if we traded for DeShaun Watson? I'd much rather have DeShaun Watson, or why don't we, we need to get this guy. Or I even see still, wish we had Cam back, those type of guys and stuff like that, or those people. And what pisses me off, and I made this analogy earlier, is realistically, Panthers fans to me are basically like the guy who's married or has a girlfriend or whatever, and he's constantly staring off into space, imagining what it would be like to get with the new girl that just stepped into his job and everything. You're never focused on what's in front of you. You're always looking out into the future. I'm a Star Wars fan, and I always remember that in episode 5, when Luke meets Yoda, he's like, you were always, looking outward and looking to see what was next. You were never focused on what was in the present, and that's Panthers fans to a T. Jake Delhomme, I remember, this isn't an exact quote, but I remember hearing him talk about this, that it's hard to necessarily, and I'm paraphrasing here, but it's hard to win a game when you have your own fans booing you off your home turf. And that's always stuck out to me with Jake Delhomme, because, for a while there, he was a good quarterback. And, he had a surgery on his throwing arm, and he just wasn't the same after that. But, he led us to a Super Bowl. And a lot of people forget it. I don't think a lot of people forget about it, but I think a lot of people forget about how good he was. This is a man who was the most accurate passer at the quarterback skill challenge back in 2003, 2004. He's a good quarterback. He's a very solid quarterback. He just, got injured, and he was never the same. And again, imagine put yourself in these guys' shoes. Put yourself in the shoes of Sam Darnold or Jake Delhomme or Cam Newton, and just sit there and wonder what it would be like to not even step for Sam Darnold to not even played a regular season game up to this point, and to have your fans just talk about, what if we had DeShaun Watson? You're sitting here reading this stuff, you're watching this stuff, and you're like, I haven't even played a legitimate regular season game, and these fans are literally ready to write me off. I mean, the man's 23 years old. He was a top 3 quarterback, or top 3 pick, not quarterback. He was a top 3 pick, 3 seasons ago? He's younger than Joe Burrow is. Look at his situation in New York, first of all. I always go back to his rookie year when he actually had a coaching staff around him. And, the man put up solid numbers. Not legit true starting numbers and everything, but he put up good numbers to the point to where you could see the potential. But then they go on ahead and they bring in Adam Gase. Adam Gase never hired a quarterback coach, and I would sit here and watch Adam Gase draw, I've read so many articles about him where he would draw up plays and he would just be like, hey, this is the guy that you're going to throw to. And I mean, that's when I say that, that's what I mean. There was not go through your progressions, this is the guy who I want you to throw to, but if he's not open, then go to him. Where I get at with it necessarily is, he was like, this is the guy you're going to throw to. So you have no quarterback coach. You have a guy who like can't even draw up plays and stuff like that. That's obviously going to hinder your that's going to hinder your development for sure. But where I get at with it necessarily is you're literally talking about somebody who hasn't even played a snap, and you see fans all over Facebook, all over social media talking about trying to get somebody else, trying to go out and get DeShaun Watson. This is some guy who we have no idea, and I'm not going to give my take on what I think is going to happen to DeShaun Watson because that's not my place. I don't know, I don't really know the whole facts about everything. I just know that there's, I know what he's facing. I know what the charges are, the allegations at least. But at the end of the day, this is somebody who realistically won't play. Who's not going to play football this year. We don't know if he's going to play next year. The Texans are going to stand firm on what they're wanting to give up for him, because at the end of the day, what they're going to win no matter what. DeShaun Watson's either going to suit up and play for him, which he said he's not going to. If he's free and clear of all charges, this guy's a potential top 3 quarterback. They can get a haul for him, or they can just which they will. If he ends up getting free and clear of his charges, he'll either play for them because they'll fine him. They don't have to pay him if he doesn't play. So they don't lose any money. And, if he does get free and clear of his charges and everything, while he's serving time or doing whatever, his contract's voided, basically. They don't have to pay him during that time, but that time still counts or that contract basically freezes, essentially, and then it starts over again. And again, if he doesn't want to play for them, they don't have to pay him. So, it's not like it's costing them any money. It's not like, it's not like they have to give him up. They're not going to sit there and necessarily give up what could be again, a guy who's a potential top 3 quarterback. That's not going to happen. And then if he gets convicted, there's a good chance he never plays in the NFL again. And again, they don't have to pay him at that point. So what did the Texans they're not forced to move him. And people are just over here saying we should just go on ahead and give this up. It's going to cost Christian McCaffrey, either DJ Moore or Brian Burns, one of the two, and not even DJ Moore. I've been hearing that it's going to cost either Brian Burns or Jeremy Chin. So you're talking about 2 young key players, one on offense, one on defense. Christian McCaffrey's been our best player for 2 years now. So you're giving up that, and then you're also going to give up 2 to 3 potential first-round draft picks. And if you wind up going with 2 first-round draft picks, I guarantee you're going to have to cough up at least 2 second-round draft picks as well, if you don't want to give up that third. So, and then if let's say we traded for DeShaun Watson today, this would put us not we would still have Sam Darnold, because we could actually afford that. Sam Darnold's relatively cheap, and then we have the chance to pick up his 5th-year option next year. But let's look at it if we go on ahead and trade for, DeShaun Watson today. What winds up happening is Sam Darnold plays. We probably don't pick up his 5th-year option because we won't be able to afford that if DeShaun Watson gets free and clear of his charges. You can't sit there and keep 2 quarterbacks on the roster. We've now given up we've now given up Christian McCaffrey. We've given up either Brian Burns or Jeremy Chin. We don't have any first-round draft picks for the next 3 years, so there's really no pieces around Sam Darnold. He has no running game. Now it's just all passing game. And I'm sorry, you've got to be an elite talent in order to overcome that. And right now, I just Sam Darnold's not that right now. Maybe he is, down the road, who knows, but that's not what he is right now. So you've now put him in a bad situation, just like the Jets did. And then he's going to have fans calling for his job because they're this isn't the guy. He sucks. He's trash. Well, he doesn't have anything around him. We don't have an offensive line. We have a young upcoming defense, but that's contingent on guys like Jeremy Chin and Brian Burns. Alone, they're, to me, they make each other better. Granted, they play different positions and everything, but you got to tell me that it helps that you've got a guy in the backfield that can take away the pass game or can step up and stuff the run, while you've got another guy over here that's a dominant pass rusher. So, then we don't have anything to work on. And then again, if we go that route, these are going to be top 5 to top 10 picks and everything. So those are very, very valuable that we're not going to have for 3 years. Well, DeShaun Watson, if he gets convicted and we have him, now we obviously have to, keep him, and we can't just ship him off because we've mortgaged our future on him. So at that point, now you're looking at like 3 years from now, and I would imagine that 3 years from now is like, if he gets convicted, would be about the time he would play. Maybe 4 years, who knows? But like, let's just say 3 years for time's sake. Now you're starting over 3 years from now. You have nothing because you haven't had a first round pick in those years. And if you did have at least one first round pick, you haven't had a first and a second round pick for 2 of those years. So, and I would imagine you would have to cough up some more draft picks if you decided to take away that first rounder. You've now mortgaged your future on a guy who right now is 25, but 3 years from now, he's going to be 28 years old. And DeShaun Watson's mobile, and he's one of the most hit quarterbacks in the league. And we remember what that was like for Cam Newton, where a lot of people were like, well, he's still only X, Y, and Z. He's only 28, 29 years old. And look where he's at now. Now Cam Newton's 31 years old, and he's on his way out the league because he's mobile. And again, like the Texans had an awful offensive line, so he's been one of the most hit quarterbacks. That ages you. There's a reason why Tom Brady's in his early 40s and still playing, because he's never been hit. He's always had a solid offensive line behind him. I'm sorry, that's just the way it is. You never see him running around. We've seen it enough to where that's what happens with those style of quarterbacks. They don't last long. I imagine DeShaun Watson will be solid up until he's 34 years old is the time I gave him with his style of play. Unless he becomes a true pocket passer, and then that extends him a little bit longer. But he's not going to last into his 40s. I think the latest he'll play is probably 35, 36 years old. So yeah, now we're starting over at 28 years old. Well, now you have to build a team, all right? And building a team generally, we've seen in the NFL that you get your rare instances like the Saints, who were like 7-9 and had a phenomenal 2016, 2017 draft. I think it was 2016 where they drafted some great players and turned their team around into a winning franchise, but that very rarely happens. So you're looking at about a 2 to 4 year building window, which that puts DeShaun Watson at 30 to 32 years old. All right. Now, in that span of time, Sam Darnold is going to be, 3 years from now, Sam Darnold will be 26, and then you get that 2 to 4 year range. So he'll be 28, 30, and you're talking about a guy who's 30 to 32 years old. I get that you're talking about 2 years, but with the style of play that they are, 2 years makes a lot of a difference, because now you have a 4 to 6, 2 to 4 year window, 2 to 6 year window with DeShaun Watson. Whereas the type of quarterback Sam Darnold is, he could play easily to 36 years old, in my opinion, if he winds up being good enough to play that long. And again, that puts him at 28 years old, having another 10 years, but we've already started that building process now. We potentially have 15 years with Sam Darnold, whereas we don't have that if we get DeShaun Watson. We realistically would most likely get anywhere from 2 to 6 years of actual competitiveness out of him. That's just my take on it, guys. I'm not going to sit here and tell you you're wrong for wanting DeShaun Watson. That's not what I'm here to do, but to me, if I'm the GM, I'm just sticking with Sam Darnold, because again, he's 23 years old. He didn't cost us a whole lot. He didn't have a whole lot to work with the last couple of years. Had an awful coach, head coach, had no quarterback coach, didn't really have that much of a offensive coordinator, and a lot of the reason was because the head coach has his head stuck so far up his ass that he doesn't want to listen to anybody else's opinion. There's a reason why Adam Gase is coaching high school football right now. And if you're going to sit here and tell me that doesn't play into the fact of how Sam Darnold played the last couple of years, you're just kind of lying to yourself. The one message I want to leave my Panthers fans with is, look at what's in front of you. Stop looking ahead to the future. Realize what you have and focus on that. Put your arm around your guy. Those are the main things that I want to get across to you. It's been good doing another video for you guys. It's been a while and everything, and again, I look to be making more of these in the coming future and getting back in the grind on it. But until then, you guys know, like I say with every single episode, I love all you guys, and I'm very happy to be back doing this for you guys. Deuces.